Hello everyone. If you have done a flat roof or you have been considering to do a flat roof, you could be having an idea how frustrating flat roofs can be when it comes to water leakage, and especially if they have not been done properly. Flat roofs are becoming very popular nowadays because of their modern look and their space-saving design, but they are presenting a challenge when it comes to water leakages. So today we want to discuss about water leakage in flat roofs. Why are the flat roofs leaking? And to help us unpack this conversation, we have Nehemiah, who has close to 2 decades of expert experience in this particular field of dealing with water leakages, waterproofing. He will be able to help us to understand why the flat roofs are leaking and what we could do to be able to overcome this challenge. So welcome Nehemiah. He has helped several homeowners to be able to navigate through this issue. And so Nehemiah, we have this one question that we want you to help us to understand. Why are the flat roofs leaking? What is happening? What are we getting wrong when it comes to doing the flat roofs? Kindly help us to be able to understand this whole area that is bringing a lot of confusion. Yes.
Thank you so much for this opportunity for us to discuss probably one of the biggest headaches for homeowners. One of the things that many homeowners who want a flat roof don't understand is that a flat roof, a concrete flat roof, is a roof that has a special design. That before you construct that roof, you have to take into consideration the issue of leakages. And now that has to happen during the concrete batching stage. The best waterproofed roof is the roof that has waterproofing admixtures incorporated during the batching stage. That is why we say it is not just a roof, it is a roof slab. Now, if your roof slab is properly designed with proper admixtures, waterproofing admixtures incorporated during the batching stage, you will not have any problem. What do I mean by that? Concrete in itself is a good building material, but it's not a watertight material. Concrete is a building material, but it has permeable issues. Concrete as a building material is not 100% watertight. That is why there are products that are engineered to optimize the performance of concrete. So let's say your concrete is 90% watertight. The 10% porosity or permeability will bring issues to your roof. That is why we have products called admixtures that are incorporated during the batching stage. When you're batching your concrete before you cast, so that you end up coming up with a watertight roof slab. Most homeowners and most contractors do not foresee this, and they bypass this stage of incorporating admixtures when they're producing their concrete. Then you end up with watertightness. But still there is hope. If you've missed admixtures during the batching stage, that is where we have engineered waterproofing systems or solutions that are surface applied. But the best is that you need to foresee the water permeability of concrete before you cast your concrete, so that you incorporate the right admixtures during the concrete batching stage of your flat roof.
By that, yes. I think you've begun the introduction very well. Though there are terminologies that you have introduced that will be very good for us to be able to understand in a more simplified language. You talked about batching. You talked about admixtures. Yeah, I think I've got those two. But as you explain this, what is the biggest mistake that the homeowners are doing, that you're saying they are forgetting about?
The biggest mistake, I think, for homeowners for flat roofs is that they are casting, or they are producing the slab, a plain slab. Let me use that. You know, it's like when you're given sukuma wiki. Why do you need Royco? Why do you need salt? It's so that you can spice it up to a certain taste. So the same thing happens here in construction. You don't just build for the sake of building. Is that for every roof slab, there is a desired end. And one of the structural desires is that you need to have a watertight roof slab. That means there are things you need to introduce when you're batching or when you're mixing your concrete components. I'm talking of your aggregate, your cement, your water, so that by the time the roof slab is in place, there was something that was introduced that is engineered to block the porosity or to make that slab watertight, in a sense, so to speak. So what I'm trying to say is this: an admixture is a powder or liquid material that is introduced during the mixing stage of the concrete to ensure that you have a certain desired outcome of water tightness.
Okay.
Admixtures are in different categories. We have those that accelerate the rate at which your concrete sets. We call them accelerators. We have those ones that delay the rate at which your concrete sets. We are calling them retarders.
Okay.
We have those that stop water from seeping in your concrete. They are called water resisting admixtures.
Okay.
So that's why we are saying, when we are batching or when we are mixing our concrete on site, or whether it's a ready mix, if you are doing ready mix concrete, it is good to tell the ready mix supplier that I want you to incorporate waterproofing or water resisting admixtures in my concrete. So during the batching at the factory, they will introduce a water resisting admixture for your concrete. So it means you have a tailor-made concrete for your roof slab, because the composition of your floor slab is not the same as your roof slab. Because your floor slab, obviously there is no problem of water seepage, but your roof is already exposed to the elements. There is rainfall that is falling on your slab. So what you want to do ordinarily is to ensure that when they're designing your concrete, you incorporate these elements we are calling admixtures, so that they improve the water resisting ability of your roof slab.
Okay. So you are saying that the roof slab is the slab that is most prone to water leakage.
Yes.
So you don't need waterproofing. Don't need waterproofing when it comes to the other slabs like ground floor, first floor.
Yeah. Because you see, on your first floor, if you're constructing normal standard practice, there's DPM that has been put in place to protect water that is seeping from the ground up.
Okay.
But now for the suspended roof slab, you need to have a suspended roof slab that is designed in such a way that there is no water seepage. That is why we are saying it is good you get proper admixtures, recommended and proper dosages during the batching. Let me mention quickly some of the admixtures we have in the market. They are heavy liquids that are incorporated and they have dosages. For example, you can be told for every 1 bag of cement, the water that you're using to batch 1 bag of cement, use 1 liter of the admixture. So technically what you do, you buy an admixture from even your hardware, and then you dose the water that you're going to use to mix your concrete, or you're going to use to batch your concrete.
Okay.
So it's good people to understand that concrete basically is a building material that has water, sand, cement, and stone. But on top of that, we incorporate an admixture depending on the desired outcome of that concrete. If you want your concrete to set very fast, you use accelerators. If you want your concrete to be watertight, so to speak, you use a water resisting admixture. So it is added during the batching stage or during the mixing stage of your concrete. So that is the proper way of designing concrete that is not going to fail. Just in case you missed to do batching and to introduce admixtures during your batching stage, now you have your slab in place and it's leaking. That is why we have surface applied waterproofing systems. By that I mean we have things like bitumen membranes that are touch bonded. We have things like elastomeric coatings where you have a 5-liter liquid and a 20 kg powder. You mix the two. That resultant paste you apply using either a roller or a brush at a certain coverage. Now, the beauty of these ones is that they will stop the water from coming, but the weakness is they can be damaged. Now, if you want to protect your waterproofing coating, you need to introduce either you do a screed and put tiles on top, or you do a screed and put terrazzo. Why? Because most of these membranes, when they're exposed to sunlight, they tend to crack and water can seep through, or they can be damaged. There can be a mechanical damage to that waterproof coating. So for us to design a good waterproofing system on a surface level, we have to make sure your concrete is prepared nicely. You do the waterproofing coating, then you protect that coating. Either you can use tiles, you can do tile adhesives, you put tiles, or you can do a screed and then you do tiles, or you can do a screed and you do terrazzo. Basically, why you're introducing the tiles and terrazzo is to protect your slab, your waterproofing coating, from being damaged. Because you see, people have flat roof for various reasons. They could want to hang clothes up there. They could want to have relaxing area up there. There's a lot of human activity on your roof slab. Now, to avoid damaging the coating, you have to protect it. So that is how you can design a good slab, a good roof slab that can be protected for over 20 years if you know the process.
Okay, thank you so much for those wonderful nuggets. I have heard from you, you've said that when you are doing the concrete, you will apply an admixture.
Yes.
But in case you have missed to do an admixture,
yes,
then you use other
surface applied.
Surface applied.
Yes.
So I know in the market there are so many waterproofing products that are there. Besides the different companies, even for one single company, you'll hear there's this one, there's this one, there's that one. So how are you able to know which one I need for this particular stage? And of course, in that light, there are other areas that we talk about waterproofing, such as water tanks, ground floors. So how am I able to know which waterproofing I need for whatever stage?
Now, that's why we said, what is it that we want to achieve? For example, in admixtures, we have different varieties of admixtures. Even in waterproofing steel admixtures, we have those that are very concentrated waterproofing admixtures and those that are general waterproofing admixtures. The concentrated waterproofing admixtures are good for underground structures and roof slabs because they are engineered. They are very concentrated to ensure that there is no water seepage. And you will find that the price for 25-liter concentrated waterproofing admixture is a little bit higher than a general waterproofing admixture.
Okay.
So many people know the general ones and there are those that are specific. That is why you need to have a specialist who will guide you, waterproofing specialist, in conjunction with your structural engineer. They need to come up with the right product for you at that stage. So for example, we have crystalline waterproofing systems. Crystalline waterproofing systems are good for concrete structures only. If you have masonry plastered surfaces, a crystalline system will not work.
What does a crystalline?
Crystalline means these are crystals. It's a powder, it's a cementitious powder that are in form of crystals. The way the product is engineered is such that when you apply the crystals to your concrete surface, the crystals migrate to the pores that are within your concrete. And then the crystals, the mechanism is they absorb water and become insoluble in the concrete structure. They can't take more water, thereby blocking the passage of water.
Okay.
So that's why we are calling it crystalline waterproofing system. But they are good for concrete surfaces, but they cannot function in a masonry surface. For a masonry surface where you have your masonry stone and you've plastered, maybe it could be a water tank, you need a coating system. A coating system is a continuous waterproofing liner, which doesn't have a joint, and it's like a blanket that you're putting or introducing in your structure.
So in a nutshell, if I'm concreting my slab, or I forgot to concrete my slab using an admixture, now I want to come and apply, and I go to a hardware, is it enough to just say I want waterproofing product for application?
Now, normally what happens, like right now, we are working in conjunction with hardwares. So what the hardware people will tell is that you'll tell them, they will call us because we don't just sell the product, there is technical support. So what we normally do when a customer comes, you have to come and explain and say, this is the tank I have, whether it's a concrete tank or a masonry tank, and this is the problem. So what product do I need? At that point, our technical team comes into play. They will ask you questions to ascertain what kind of challenge are you facing, so that they can recommend the proper product for that kind of situation. So that's why we are saying, moving forward, technical support is there. Construction chemical manufacturers have put base here. We are in the market assisting customers. It's not just selling products off the shelf. It's the same thing with drugs. You can't go to the pharmacy and self-medicate. The challenge that we are having in this country is that many homeowners are self-medicating. They are not seeking the services of professionals to assist them to optimize the performance of their structures. So all we can say is kindly get in touch with the manufacturers and their technical team. We are there. We are quite a number of us. Tell us what is the problem you're going through. We will recommend the right product. Then you will get it from whichever outlet. That is the best way to go about waterproofing. Because you see, you can take a crystalline system and apply it on a masonry tank. And you know, if you apply it on a masonry tank, the crystals will run through. Because the porosity in a plastered wall is very high. The crystals are very small, they cannot stop. But in a concrete structure, the crystals are engineered in such a way that they can block the pores in concrete,
And what causes pores in concrete?
There are so many factors that causes porosity. Number one, the nature of concrete itself is not 100% watertight. Placing and vibration of the concrete.
When you are concreting.
When you're concreting.
When you're vibrating.
Yeah, when you're vibrating your concrete, that's another major cause. And handling, pouring, the quality of the concrete itself. Because in most cases, most homeowners love site batching as opposed to ready mix. Ready mix is more professional and the quality and standard is very high as opposed to batching on site. Because the thing is, who is doing quality control of your mixing on site? The quality controls on site batches is quite very low.
So what I'm getting from you, maybe this will be very important for the homeowner, is that two things that many homeowners are self-medicating themselves. I think that's what I've heard, self-medicating. And so they are the specialist and the engineer and everything to themselves, which now is one of the reasons why they are having those problems. The second thing is that there is no quality control for concrete
that
during the
produced.
batching that is being produced, because they are mixing it on site. And when there is no good control, then it's more vulnerable to pores and cracks that will
even honeycombs. Even you'll have a lot of honeycombs on site, because who is checking that the concrete is properly vibrated? Who is checking that it's class 25? The volumetric design is being followed. For example, you can be told X number of buckets of cement, X number of buckets of sand, X number of aggregate or ballast. The question is, who is checking that those ratios are being followed to the letter? The more reason we recommend, heaven is go for ready mix. But even if you can't, when if you are doing site batching, at least have a professional eye to be on board, because batching is a one-day affair, to come and supervise and see that the concrete you're producing, the slab that you're coming up with, is properly done, it's properly mixed, the right ingredients are put in, the right amount of water, the right amount of cement, the correct amount of admixture and proper dosage. It's not just enough to have correct admixture. There is a dosage that needs to go in so that they give you proper dosage, and then at the end of the day, they assist you in achieving a properly designed and implemented roof slab.
So if I would ask, would it be enough to just buy a ready mix for my flat roof and not need waterproofing?
If the ready mix company assures you that they have given you sufficient waterproofing or water resisting admixtures at the batching plant, because when they are batching the concrete or during ready mix manufacturing process, the computer actually doses the right amount of water resisting admixtures to your concrete.
In all scenarios,
it is the customer now to request, and there is an additional cost to that. You can tell them, I want water resisting admixture, ready mix concrete. Then they'll tell you you'll spend X amount of money. So all I can tell homeowners is, do not go through this process without involving professionals. It's very important, because repairs, remember, are very costly. Actually, if you look at the cost of doing surface applied systems and the cost of doing admixtures, is like 4 times more. It's 4 more times costlier to do a surface applied system as opposed to doing admixture during the batching stage. So the best is, you will think you're avoiding a cost, but in the long run, if you do a surface applied system, it is more costly, because there is surface preparation cost, there is application cost, and there is material for that surface applied, there is protection of the same. All these costs could be avoided if we do proper concrete design during the design stage and ensure that we are having a proper concrete, that is a slab that is being produced during batching.
Thank you very much. Other than flat roofs, would we require to do waterproofing, say applied waterproofing in, say, bathrooms, toilets? Because I remember there's a place I went to visit, and a tenant who had occupied a lower floor was complaining that when the other tenant who is in the upper floor, when they are bathing, they are using because they are bathing together.
They are bathing together. That happens. Is the case scenario, because remember, this tenant on the upper floor is sitting or is using the roof for the tenant below, because that's a roof already. And that roof, there is water, but now it's not rainwater. There is no more water that is being splashed during bathing. So technically, wet areas in the house are supposed to be waterproof. They could be balconies, they could be toilets, they could be bathrooms. That is why I'm saying it is good for those areas, because you see, because of cost, it is good for those areas to be given surface treatments. Okay. If you cannot afford to do admixtures for those slabs, those areas can be singled out to be waterproofed. So before you do your tiles in your bathroom or your toilet, it is good to ensure that that roof slab has a crystalline system treatment on it before the tiles are put. Because you apply the crystalline systems to ensure that there is no water seepage to the floor below. Because if you just leave it plain and that area is exposed to water every single day, ultimately water will seep through. Because like I said, concrete is a building material, is not 100% watertight. Okay. Yeah.
Now, speaking of, before I leave the subject on the waterproofing the flat roofs, I will talk about apartments. There are those apartments that would have an expansion joint. And at the expansion joint, there are cases where whenever it's raining, that would be the weak point that will cause water to penetrate into the lower floors. So what would be your advice when it comes to expansion joints and waterproofing?
You see, we have expansion joint sealants. This is a category of sealants that are engineered to waterproof joints. Okay. So that's why you put in your backing rod material and then you put expansion joint sealant. Yes. What is the sealant all about? It's to waterproof your joint, to make sure your joint doesn't seep water. So yes, there are so many instances. Under waterproofing, we also have joint sealants, but their primary purpose is actually to stop water from seeping through to the joint. And the beauty with most of these sealants, they have flexibility. We call it movement accommodation factor. If the slab expands and contracts, because the nature of the material of most of sealants are PU, they are polyurethane systems, they can expand and contract without cracking, thereby protecting your joint from leaking. So we have systems that are engineered and tailor-made for joints. Yes. We have systems that are tailor-made for concrete structures, could be underground structures, could be overhead like a flat roof that we were discussing. It could be a swimming pool. And one of the things I wanted to say, something like a swimming pool. It is one structure, but there are different waterproofing materials that go into that structure to produce a successful swimming pool. For example, at the joint where the wall and the floor intersect, that is the weakest point on a swimming pool. You introduce a water bar. Okay. Once you finish, in your concrete that you're batching, you introduce a waterproofing admixture to the concrete that is going to the swimming pool. Once you finish, you will have waterproofing coating going through another layer of waterproofing protection. After you finish that, you have a waterproofing joint sealant or tile sealant for the tiles that will go. So you see, it is one structure, but it has different types of products that go into producing a watertight structure. So that's why I say let the homeowner stop self-medicating. There are so many construction chemical manufacturers we have in the market. Sika is a big player, Mapei is another big player, Fosrock is a big player. It will pay off. You contact one of them, ask the technical department, tell them what you want to construct, and then you're given the products. You can shop around and get the right product. You can get a variety, similar product from a different manufacturer that fits your pocket if the cost is the issue. But the most important thing is to stop self-medicating. Because at the end of the day, you'll use the right product the wrong way or the right product at the wrong place.
Okay. So if again back to the roof for the homeowner, another question that has come to my mind: do I still need to waterproof in case I'm doing terrazzo, or I could be doing some paving slabs, and or if I am doing power floating or other?
Yeah, you know, one of the biggest,
say bitumen. I'm applying bitumen. Do I still need to waterproof?
That is a very good question. You know, essentially we said primarily the problem of leakages happens in your slab. So it's important to secure your slab. If you fail to secure your slab, most customers use terrazzo. Terrazzo technically is a decorative flooring material. It's not a waterproofing material, because terrazzo in its nature, it absorbs water. So that is one of the challenges I've had with most customers who tell me that I've done terrazzo and then they find their slab leaking. Because terrazzo as a material is a decorative flooring material. We can use it to protect an underlying waterproofing coating. We can use terrazzo to protect a waterproofing coating. Terrazzo in and of itself is not a waterproofing material. That is why we said, when you stop self-medicating, you'll get the right product. We say, put your coating, then do your terrazzo. because the coating, the elastomeric coating, is engineered to protect water seepage in your slab. Then the terrazzo is your decorative material that you will put, and then you can walk on top of it. You can do so many things on top. But terrazzo is not a waterproofing material. It is a decorative flooring material.
Okay.
Yes.
I saw another person who had done bitumen, and it was peeling off. It had been put above the floor screed.
Yeah.
After you've done concrete, then they had done the floor screed, and then did a bitumen for waterproofing. What it was peeling off.
That's another challenge. That's why I said what we normally protect, and this is the term I like using mostly. What we protect is the mother slab. Now you find a customer has the right product, but is applying it on screed. Remember, the problem is not with your screed. The problem is the weakness in the mother slab. So I'd prefer you put your bitumen directly on your mother slab, because that's where the problem is. Because now you introduce one layer of screed and then you're putting bitumen on top. If the screed fails, your bitumen fails, and your mother slab is exposed. So that's why we're saying what we need to waterproof is the mother slab.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So technically speaking, is let's be concerned about treating. If you can't prevent the mother slab from leaking by using admixtures, you can use surface applied systems on the mother slab, because the problem is the mother slab. That is where the treatment should go in.
Okay. And would you recommend reliance on, say, Fundis or foremen to give advice on a waterproofing?
No, not at all. Because for one simple reason, that's why in the medical industry, for example, let me use that term, you have different specialists within the same field. You have a gynecologist, you have a pediatrician. You have different specialists who tackle different areas of the same field. Same thing happens in construction. That is why you have a structural engineer, you have an architect, you have a waterproofing specialist. So different people play different roles. So you need to bring on board the right people for the right job.
Yeah.
If you assume it's one person to do everything, that's where we get problems. Okay. So call in a specialist, somebody who has a know-how. He will know this problem, this is the solution we recommend.
Right.
So I will always insist and say, kindly get in touch with the waterproofing specialist. If you cannot get in touch with the manufacturing company, you can as well call the manufacturing company and tell them, send me your technical person to come and assess the situation that I have. Then from that assessment, we can have proper recommendation of what is supposed to be done.
All right.
Because most fundis will tell you bring waterproof powder. It's one solution for everything, and that's where the problems arise.
They'll bring maybe the waterproofing for mortar or for screed, which is supposed to be
like I find people who want to do crystalline system in a plastered wall. It doesn't work. But if it's a concrete, it can work. So that's why I'm saying it's important we get the right people to recommend the right product. Because the first stage is to assess the problem. Second stage is to recommend the right product. The third stage is to have proper application of that product. You could be having the right product, but wrong application. And again, you don't get the full benefits.
And assuming you talked about for concrete specifically, you talked about an admixture. You also talked about a surface application. So if I have an admixture product, can I still use it as a surface application? Or vice versa?
Not possible.
It won't work.
It won't work because an admixture goes to your fresh concrete. It is only effective during the mixing stage. Surface applied system is engineered that you missed for whatever reason. The concrete is now it's in place and it's leaking. Then now we need something to stop this leakage. Then you go for surface applied systems. That's why I said at different stages of construction, you have different products that are engineered to solve a specific problem. You could be having, let's say, an active leakage. The product that goes there is a plug. We have plugs that can set in less than 1 second to stop an active leak. So if you use a plug for active leakage as a protective layer, you see, it's the right product, wrong application. So if you have an active leakage, you could be having a water tank that is actively leaking and it's concrete. In that case, you need to use plugs, or we have some PUs that you can inject, which are advanced form of waterproofing. You can inject and stop the waterproofing of your concrete structure.
Wow. Products are just being introduced over and over and over and over. Before we finish this conversation, there's one more question that I would not want to miss to ask you as we come to the end. Now, there's the issue of ground slabs. During the heavy rains, I witnessed several places where there were the ground floor walls, just near the external walls, they had a whitish compound
Yeah.
forming, and sometimes you find that inside a room,
Yeah.
the paint is peeling.
It's peeling off,
It's
and
peeling
especially it's less than a meter from the ground.
Why
That
is
is
that?
groundwater coming up through osmosis. It happens. It's a common problem
Yes.
of dampness. Now that is dampness. We don't call it leakage really.
So it is not rainwater.
It's not
directly
rainwater.
hitting.
It's most cases it's groundwater. In
Okay.
most cases it's groundwater moving up.
Okay.
Yeah, and it doesn't go even more than half a meter all around the house, and it introduces dampness in the house. In that case, we have very few simple problems. You need to peel back to your plaster. You remove the paint, remove your skim coat, get back to the plaster.
On the external.
Even inside, on the inside.
Okay.
I'm assuming this is a room you've constructed for your house. Children, you have a bedroom that is leaking, is damp. You peel back, remove the paint, remove your skim coat, get to the plaster. That is now the concrete member. Yeah. On that plaster, you need to use waterproofing coating. As in most cases, is half a meter. You can apply it all around. It's like you've introduced a blanket, yeah, to stop the dampness from coming to the house, and then you can paint on top of it.
What about on the external, if at all you have not plastered the...
Now for the external, to stop the same effect, you can plaster the wall and then you do a coating.
Okay.
That is external treatment. So that's why I said it's important always to have a specialist come to site, assess the situation, and give you a proper recommendation. Yeah, these are certified specialists by manufacturers or people who have been in the industry for quite some time. They give you a professional solution so that at the end of the day you enjoy your home. Because one of the things I can tell you is that building a home in Kenya is something that so many people have a heart in. Last thing you want to have is a leaking house. I mean, it's really traumatizing, and considering the amount of investment that goes into coming up with a home.
Wow. Wow, that was quite a conversation. I believe we are going to have more of this conversation. I hope there will be a part 2 of this.
Yes.
But dear viewer, I don't know what you take from this conversation. Perhaps you could drop a comment on down there, and maybe Nehemiah.
Yes.
You could do, I don't know whether you have a punchline. We'll be sharing your contacts, and so that in case you want to directly have a conversation with Nehemiah, to consult him further. If you're having challenge with waterproofing your flat roof, you can find the contacts down there, and Nehemiah will be able to help you. I don't know what punchline you give.
What I could say is that for different structures or different stages of construction, you have different challenges that need specific solutions. There is no one fix-it-all solution for all problems.
Yes.
That is why it's important to get in touch with us. Then we assess the challenge you're going through, and at that stage, give you the proper recommendation or proper waterproofing solution, because there's over 1,000 products in the market for waterproofing.
Yes.
But they are all engineered for different challenges or different problems. So yes, we are willing to assist, provided the homeowners and the customers are willing to reach out to us and ask us, this is the challenge I'm going through, what can I do in this instance?
Wow, thank you so much, Nehemiah. Thank you for coming. Kindly subscribe if you haven't, and we'll be having more deep dives on building smarter. Today we were discussing about why are flat roofs leaking, and I believe that at this point you have an idea of why the flat roofs are leaking. If you have one that is leaking, let me know, or you could reach out to Nehemiah and be glad to assist you. Thank you very much. Let's see you next time.